It just seemed like a scene from the movie Twister.
There were whole trees falling down in the middle of the street.
It sounded like a huge helicopter landing on top of us.
When I heard that sound, I thought we were in big trouble.
From the Weather Channel, this is Storm Stories with meteorologist Jim Cantore.
Tornadoes. They're some of Mother Nature's greatest phenomena. These spinning columns of air often snake down from the sky with little or no warning. That was the case in April 2001 when a violent tornado ripped through this small central Kansas town of Hoisington. Most residents were caught completely off guard, including one teenager who was at his high school prom. As you can imagine, this was a night he'll always remember. April 21st, 2001, Hoisington, Kansas. It's the day of the Hoisington High School prom. A day 18-year-old Zach Anderick has been looking forward to for months. He lives with his parents, 47-year-old Becky and 52-year-old Dean, along with his younger sister, Krista. Their close-knit farming community has just 3,100 residents.
Everybody knows anything about you, and I knew everybody in my graduating class by their first name.
Like most of his senior classmates, Zach hopes to have an unforgettable evening. He's about to get his wish. "12 noon, 130 miles away in Wichita, meteorologist Jeremy Vogel arrives to work early for his evening shift at KWCH-TV. It's tornado season, and he's concerned about a large storm system that's developing in western Kansas.
In the 3.5 years that I've been here, this was really the most major storm that had been around.
Jeremy's radar shows the buildup of a supercell, an intense thunderstorm with a strong rotating updraft. It's 30 miles west and heading straight for Hoisington, but the gorgeous weather there offers no clue of the destructive power that's on the way.
It was a beautiful day. There was no wind, no clouds. It was sunny and warm.
Of course, Zach's not really thinking about the weather. His mind is on a candy apple red sports car.
My sister and her husband restore cars, and they had a 92 Corvette. My son thought it'd be neat to have that to drive his day to in the prom.
He was really impressed with it. He thought he was pretty cool.
Zach's prom date is 17-year-old Carrie Felke. The couple has been dating for 8 months.
He's really sweet. He always looks out for me, and I know he looks out for his family a lot, too.
By 6 p.m., Zach is decked out in his rented tuxedo and ready to pick her up.
I was really excited to see her dress on her, and I like my tux because we'd spent a lot of time picking out the right tux.
But before Zach leaves, his mother gives him some last-minute instructions.
Whenever Zach would leave home, we would always make him take a cell phone so that if he had problems, he could call us.
Zach's 13-year-old sister, Krista, goes to a friend's house for the night to watch movies. Around 7 p.m., Zach and Carrie pull up in front of the Knights of Columbus building, 1 mile away from Zach's home. The fiery red Corvette immediately impresses their friends.
And then I helped her out of the car, being a true gentleman, of course. It's a pretty neat feeling to just have all these people looking at you.
The prom is already underway when Zach and Carrie join the party. They're ready for a perfect night of carefree fun.
Everybody's having a good time, is lighthearted, and it's really fun.
But the prom theme, lost in the moment, is an eerie prediction of what's to come. "20 miles away, the strong thunderstorm is now producing large hail across the open country. The National Weather Service releases a warning for Barton County, where Hoisington is located.
The National Weather Service in Wichita have issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Barton County and central Kansas until 9 p.m.
But there's no warning for what happens at that very minute: tornadoes.
Oh, there's a tornado right there.
A storm chaser captures the moment as a small twister coils down from the sky. Back in Wichita, meteorologist Jeremy Vogel sees the tornado on radar and becomes increasingly worried.
I've been watching these storms continually to drop tornadoes out in open country, and as it got closer to Hoisington, there was only a severe thunderstorm warning out.
Vogel decides to go on air with his own weather warning.
I'd gone on TV to warn viewers, if you lived in Hoisington, that the thunderstorm cell that we're watching has had the history of producing tornadoes and is moving to your direction.
But not everyone is watching television at that moment. As daylight fades, Dean and Becky Anderick are outside their home talking with a neighbor. Their conversation stops short when they see a dramatic cloud formation in the distance.
We could see the wall cloud. The wind come up a little bit and it started to rain, so we came into the house.
We were real concerned about a major hailstorm coming through. We had no thoughts of a tornado.
Dean suddenly remembers Zach's borrowed Corvette that's parked outside the prom.
We heard 3 or 4 hailstones come down. We didn't want a hailstorm to damage the fiberglass of the Corvette.
He calls Zach on his cell phone to tell him he's switching the Corvette for the pickup truck. The exchange takes only a few minutes. As Dean pulls the Corvette into his garage, the weather takes a turn for the worse. At 9:17 p.m., Dean and Becky hear something hit the side of their house.
We thought it was a large hailstone, and so my husband said, we better go to the basement.
I was afraid the bay window would blow out or be shattered by hail.
They quickly grab a flashlight and the cell phone and head for the basement stairs. At that moment, they hear a sound they've never heard before.
We heard like a huge helicopter trying to land on top of us, kind of the whoop-whoop sound.
When I heard that sound, I thought we were in big trouble.
At that point in time, we took off running down the stairs, and all the glass exploded.
I was about halfway down the steps, and something else hit the side of the house, and Dean said, go.
It's an F4 tornado, and it's right on top of their house. As they take cover in the basement, the serpentine monster roars above them with winds estimated at more than 200 miles an hour. It rips off their roof and topples their brick chimney.
We heard glass and wood and all kinds of things. We knew our house was just being torn apart.
Which is a sound, once you hear it, you'll never forget it, because I think every glass in the house exploded at the same time.
Piles of debris fill up the basement stairway, blocking their only means of escape. For 10 agonizing seconds, the tornado roars above their heads. Then, as quickly as it came, it moves on.
Everything stopped coming down the stairs and the noise stopped. Dean said, call 911.
911.
Yes, we have a tornado that just hit Hoisington. We're stuck in our basement on the west side.
Okay, did it damage your house? Or?
The unpredictable twister winds its way east toward the high school. Now it's only 5 blocks from the Knights of Columbus, where the prom is in full swing.
All of a sudden, a gust of wind slammed the door shut, and then right after that, the power went out.
The music was stopped, and they made an announcement to file down to the basement.
The power flickers on and off as Zach and Carrie run for cover. Just then, Zach's cell phone rings. It's his mother, who sounds frantic.
She said that we're trapped, you need to come and somehow, if you are able to, come and try and get us out.
Zach grabs his date and dashes up the basement stairs.
I was starting to worry, like, where was it going? What was the extent of the damage? Because there was just tons of thoughts running through my mind of what could have been happening.
Zach is about to head outside into the wrath of the tornado. It's April 21st, 2001. In the small Kansas town of Hoisington, an F4 tornado has just ripped apart the home of Dean and Becky Anderich. They are trapped in their dark basement under piles of debris.
Right above us, our neighbor's truck was sitting on top of the house.
Becky telephones her son for help a second time. 18-year-old Zach Anderich is at his high school prom, 1 mile away at the Knights of Columbus building. Becky is hysterical over her missing teenage daughter.
I remember this distinctly. I said to him, before you come home, I need you to go to the other side of town and find Krista.
She became very upset, mainly because we don't know what happened to our daughter.
13-year-old Krista is at a friend's house across town, and the F4 tornado is still terrorizing Hoisington. With wind speeds at more than 200 miles an hour, it's verging on F5 status, the top of the tornado scale.
The thing that was different about this tornado more than anything else was the way the tornado went from F0 to F4 with the snap of a finger.
Zach is desperate to leave the prom and find his family, but he has one problem.
The chaperones would not let us leave. The wind kind of wanted to suck the door open, so the head chaperone stood there and held the door shut.
Fortunately, the fickle tornado dodges the Knights of Columbus building and moves north. The winds quickly die down. Zach and his date, 17-year-old Carrie Felke, make a frantic plea to leave the prom.
They were not going to let us leave, but Zach just kind of pushed his way through them, and he said, I'm going.
The couple speeds across town in Zach's pickup truck. Zach and Carrie search desperately for his sister Krista, but they have trouble finding the house where she is staying. Confused and panic-stricken, Zach decides to search for Krista later. He heads back across town to rescue his parents.
I just wanted to get home and try to get them out of the basement as soon as possible because I didn't know what was happening to them.
1 mile away, Dean and Becky sit entombed in their basement. With no electrical power, they are in near total darkness.
There was a little window, and we could kind of look up and see a little bit of the stars.
I could see one little area of nighttime sky, knowing that at least our roof was gone.
Then, a new misery aggravates their situation.
We started having lots of water run into the basement. We thought we must have a major rainstorm going on.
In reality, the tornado has snapped their water pipes in half, sending showers down on top of them. The minutes tick away as Zach maneuvers through ripped-up streets blocked by debris. What is normally a 3-minute drive home takes an agonizing 20 minutes.
It just looked like the scene out of a movie, such as Twister. Just was trees everywhere, just down power lines, power poles.
We had to drive through yards to get where we were, and it's a good thing we had its truck.
Finally, Zach pulls into what's left of his driveway. The devastation in front of him is so horrific, Zach can't believe this is actually his home.
He started crying, and I was like, no, this isn't your house, you know? And I kind of looked around, and the driveway was familiar, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is his house.
Oh, I did not recognize my own neighborhood. Everything you grow accustomed to every day as you go home just were totally gone and just totally flattened and looked like a war zone. It kind of looks like the old pictures of Nagasaki or after the atom bomb.
Zach tells Carrie to stay in the truck to avoid hot power lines. The tuxedo-clad teen grabs a flashlight and makes a mad dash to find his parents.
I crawled around the debris and I told him I was there.
Dean hears his son and signals him with a flashlight, shining it up through the mass of rubble, covering a small window.
There was a huge pile of debris over the window, mainly this whole side of the house.
And somehow I was able to crawl over debris and find the window.
With superhuman strength, he tears away splintered wood, pieces of walls, and chunks of concrete.
I'm not really that strong, I'll admit that, but because I'm a runner, but it just seemed like everything was real simple.
Zach digs frantically for 20 minutes. A neighbor and sheriff run over to help. Together, they clear away just enough debris for an opening around the tiny basement window.
I'm very claustrophobic, and when the sheriff's officer said, "We're going to pull you out this window," I stuck my head out and I said, "I can't." He goes, "Yes, you will."
A frightened Becky is lifted to freedom. Her husband is rescued next.
He got stuck about halfway out, and then we pried a little more siding away and some trim board.
So my son and the neighbor just grabbed my arms and pulled very hard, and I came out of the window.
They hugged the neighbor, the sheriff. They both hugged me in a big bear hug.
He just was glad to see Mom and Dad was okay. That was quite a relief for him.
A neighbor walks over to Zach's truck to give Carrie news of the rescue. She is overwhelmed by the evening's events.
I was just sitting there in shock. I didn't remember much about it. I remember his neighbor came in and she sat down in the truck and talked to me.
But the family's ordeal isn't over. Zach's sister Krista is still missing. He and his parents hop in the truck and begin a desperate search to find her.
There's people running around the streets all over the place, just like panicked people everywhere.
It's 10:30 p.m. on April 21st, 2001. A powerful twister has just swept through parts of Hoisington, Kansas. The Enderick family is one of dozens left homeless. But more importantly, Dean and Becky Enderick must find their missing 13-year-old daughter, Krista.
I never worried about me being hurt. I worried that my children were hurt.
Zach Enderick and his date, Carrie Felke, join his parents in the search.
When she wasn't answering at our friend's house, we were getting pretty frantic.
And so we started asking around and ended up finding her about 3 houses down that had a basement. She was safe.
Krista didn't know what had happened, and I remember hearing her mom saying, "Krista, we have something to tell you."
Becky tells her daughter that their home is destroyed.
I was kind of devastated because that's where I'd always lived. I'd lived there for 13 years.
By now it's 11 p.m. The supercell that meteorologist Jeremy Vogel has been tracking finally begins to lose strength.
The storm kept going till about midnight that night. That's how powerful the storm was.
The next morning, daylight reveals the full horror of the destruction in Hoisington. The damage includes the shiny Corvette Zach borrowed from his aunt for the prom.
If my parents hadn't made the switch, the Corvette would have been in perfect working order.
Yet the Endericks keep things in perspective.
This really taught a lesson to me about materialism that, okay, I lost a Corvette, big deal, I have my parents. They are more valuable than the most expensive car in the world.
Zach is a hero, and he will always be a hero because he was there to help us.
Zach and his family worked together to bounce back from the tornado. Even after surviving an unforgettable prom night in Tornado Alley, for Zach, there's no place like home.
It kind of put the cap on the whole Wizard of Oz story that tornadoes do happen in Kansas. It's Mother Nature, and She does what she wants.
So just how many homes and businesses were destroyed in Hoisington by that ferocious F4 tornado? I'll have the answer when Storm Stories returns. So just how severe was the tornado damage in Hoisington? Well, nearly 200 homes and businesses were demolished. Property damage was estimated at more than $43 million. And amazingly, only one person was killed. For Storm Stories and the Weather Channel, I'm meteorologist Jim Cantore. Thanks for watching.